What's up, guys? Today we're going to talk about this build that we've had for a long time at the shop. This is Shelton Franks' Trans Am. We've done a lot to this car. We didn't do the chassis originally. It was built in Canada and he bought it second hand from a guy named Ivan. So we're going to talk about everything that we did to the car. Just go over all the details. We've got the nose on the car right now, which is a carbon nose. Fortunate for us, most of all this stuff was fit on the chassis. We didn't have to do a whole lot to the chassis itself. Show you the tag here. It was built by DMV Race Cars in Canada somewhere. Don't know exactly where they are there. April of 2019 is when it was completed. So the nose was already fit. It's got an OEM style top, which the car is so light, you know, a lot of people run the carbon stuff. This car is so light it really don't matter. Fenders have been stretched so you can run 315s. It's got a 275 on there now. Got the carbon rear bumper. The wing was already mocked up. Twin parachute brackets in the back. We got weld spindle mount wheels with carbon brakes. I believe it's got Strange Ultra struts on the front. On the rear, we have the RC components. These are a 0 backspacing wheel. If you're into big deep lips, you don't get no deeper than that. Those wheels didn't come on the car. These did, but Shelton provided those. He ordered those while the car was here. Come up here and switched them out. But on the front, it's got 118mm precision on it. We cut the hole out in the front, made a little piece of aluminum here to close the gap up. We just got that taped in there. On the sides, we've got 5-inch downpipes with 2.5-inch wastegate dumps. We normally would just dump the wastegates underneath the car, but this was already cut out for the previous twin turbo setup that was on the car when it was originally set up. That's originally what Ivan was going to do, a twin Garrett's, I believe, on a LSX. So all that was already mocked up on the car, and then when he parted the car out, all this stuff was already set up. So we just filled the holes in and just utilized what was there to make it look nice. Starting at the back, we've got all carbon inside. I've got some paperwork and stuff through in here so it don't get lost. Got carbon wheel tubs, all this stuff's carbon. We've got our 6.5 gallon vent tank. This is just like the one we sell on our website. 2-inch stack to come up through the hatch whenever they do the finish work. Twin 16s going in it, with the tubing running down the car there. The battery mount here, we got that from Quartermax, I believe, and we cut it down, re-welded it, and made a little personal hold down top for it. The Flaming River battery shut off switch here. We also have it going to the front beside the seat. So you can do it here. Well, wrong way. On off on the rear. That also goes to a cable, which is here. So if he's strapped in and somebody forgets to cut him on, he can turn his own battery on and off. If he happens to wreck the car or something that needs to shut the battery off, he can also reach that if he's conscious enough to do that. So just an added safety feature that we've recently started doing. I'm going to be doing it on my personal car as well. You can see the chassis is really nice in this thing. A lot of weight's been cut out of it. All the sheet metal here has been skint down to the single layer. A lot of the OEM stuff still here. All the OEM rockers. They're hollow though. I'm gonna stick my hand all the way up in them. But just a lot of time has been taken to shave this thing down. Looking on this side, starting in the interior, we got FireSense fire system. Got our solenoid there, and I'm not running any plumbing because obviously this whole chassis has got to get blown apart and painted. Got your fire cable there. Parachute release up there was already mounted when he brought the car. Got the M&M shifter here. We put that on the drive shaft enclosure. It's got twin loops in it. That's welded to the top of one of them. That way you can just pull it out. A lot of people have asked about this carbon tunnel here. I'm not really sure who makes it, but this was already in the car whenever they brought it. So the chassis was pretty much set up around this tunnel style, because I've seen where you can buy this tunnel kit exactly like this, but obviously you got to build your chassis to where it will fit. This little carbon piece here, Shelton provided this piece of carbon. He just he had a friend that he could get some carbon for, so we just used this piece. We made these little brackets here, and we used nut certs going in the tube, so when he takes the bolts out, it can just lift out. But all the electronics are going to be on that panel right there. The fire system, we got a nozzle here. We've got a nozzle over pointed at the driver. Well, this one's pointed kind of at the driver too. We've got two under the hood in the engine area as well. We can go to the other side here. Steering column and the steering wheel was already on there. We got the extension here. Shelton's a really short guy, so we had to reconfigure the pedals. Just made a plate with some studs in it and welded it to the structure in the floor. We got twin master cylinder for the brakes. We got the throttle pedal setup that we set up with the throttle rod and all that, and I'll show you that whenever I get the front off, and I'll slide the dash back a little bit where you can see it. We got a dead man hook here where you can pull the throttle closed if something gets binded up, and we got a stop here where when he gets excited he don't try to push the throttle pedal through the firewall. Here we got our fire nozzle going to the driver. Race Tech seat, really awesome seat. Kind of pricey, but I've not sat in a more comfortable seat ever. It feels like you're riding in a luxury car sitting in that thing. But the issue we had here, we had to cut this bar out where it was originally and put this one in. I feel sorry for the guys at, I just drew a complete blank, Reese Brothers Race Cars. That's where this car is going after it leaves here to get all the body work and stuff finished and the paint. But that seat is really tough to get out of there. It just barely fit in there. It's actually, I think it's leaning like a ½ degree one way, just because it will not fit any better without completely redoing all the chassis stuff to fit it. Because originally the seat was one of those carbon seats that you see a lot of guys running in the pro mods, no pad, no nothing, And because Shelton is so short, and this car was built for a guy that's around 6'3", we had to change a lot of stuff to make it work. But shout out to the Race Tech guys. I worked with them trying to get this the right seat for this car. We actually had to cut a lot of the lip of it off to get it to go in between there, but they was really easy to deal with. Sent me a lot of measurements and different things to try to help me fit this thing and make sure that this seat was going to fit before we even ordered it. The carbon dash was already fit, just rough fit in the car whenever he brought it. We just got everything kind of laid up there, installed. They cut it out for some type of screen there, but this car is going to have the Fuel Tech FT600 on it, so he won't be using that. He'll probably just have the billet mount right here, and the Reese Brothers guys will probably just close that off and redo it. We've got carbon brakes in the rear as well. Mike can see down through there. No, you can't really see. I'll try to get under the car and get a view of some stuff. We also measured for the drive shaft in this car. It's got Mencers in the rear, a full floater rear. It's a strange style rear, I believe, but all carbon brakes. See if I can get to the front. We've got those infinite adjustable 4-link brackets. And I've showed you some stuff on this car before. If you look back through our YouTube videos, you can see. But we've got the strange center section with the 10-inch gear. I know it's kind of hard to see in the dark. We had the drive shaft shop make a carbon drive shaft with 1480 yokes. It's got a turbo 400 style transmission in it. I'm not sure who that came from, but Kevin got that set up and ordered, and they brought it down here and we got it put in the car, so for mock-up. That's about all on the outside. Now for the fun part, let's pull the nose off and see what's hiding under there. We got the nose pulled off now. We'll see what's going on under here. I know I've already done some videos on this setup, but now that it's complete, it just turned out awesome. We always like it when we have opportunities to get involved with some radical builds like this. Full-on race cars. So starting at the front, we've got the Precision 118. This turbo's been around for a while, makes some good power. I think it'll make around 2,500 or so to the tire. So we mounted it in the middle using Maven turbo support like we always do. Did this bar off the front. It had some bars that came off of here that mounted the original twins that were on the car. We cut those off. Got that mounted up. The hot side is 3-inch all the way. Got the streetcar fabrication billet flange. We use those on pretty much all our builds that require a T6 or 5 or 4 or whatever. Still got some stuff here I ain't cleaned off. The wastegates, we have the Turbo Smart Power Gate 60s. with the compressed gas. These are the newer ones that they've come out with. Really low profile, really lightweight. I really love the way these are, their quality and stuff. It's just a really compact wastegate. It's not super tall, easy to work with, and they also have a water cooled option for some of them guys that don't know. Obviously this car don't have any water, so be useless on this build, but that is the option with those. The wastegate dumps, they're aluminum. At the time, I could not get 11 gauge 2.5. I couldn't find it anywhere. We've been working with Race Parts Solutions, and recently he has found some. So now they have it in stock. It's got a super huge radius on it, so you can't get a really tight bend, but it's better than nothing. But because I couldn't get the 11 gauge at the time, I built it out of 16 gauge, and then I took the same bend, cut a slice on both sides, and squeezed it together around the 16 gauge. So now it is double wall. So I basically made myself an 11 gauge pipe to absorb the heat off the dump. Now, he's not going to be dumping a lot of boost, but in the past I did a 16 gauge off some wastegates with no support out here. That was kind of a dumb move on my part, but it melted the pipe where it's thin on the bend on that setup on one side. So I ordered some cast pieces to go in the short section to help take the heat, and then they polished them back out and you can't even tell now. But that was a hindsight thing that I learned from. So on this one, the underneath, you see I have a tab and a nutsert that attaches the dump tube to the downpipe. That makes everything super stiff, nothing's vibrating, and it's less likely to break or less likely to stress, because the welds didn't break on the other one, it just melted plumb through the pipe. And it wouldn't have done that unless it was right in a bend. So just something to consider, you guys making wastegate dumps. I also have these little tension rods here that'll absorb some vibration from the pipe, help it stay steady when you're putting the front end on and off. And those are adjustable, you know, you can adjust the tension on there. They have a little floater ball on the end with a stud on it on both sides. I've also got these wastegates gusseted underneath. You can't really see. On the fuel tank, we custom made this tank as well, because the shape of the front, we made it follow the shape of the front. And I normally do like a 1 inch or 1 1/4 inch protective bar around the tank, but for how tight this tank is to the front, I had to make it 3/4 inch. And we've got this threaded on the inside, 3/8 bolts, where you can remove this top piece and pull the tank straight out the top. The tree in the front is close, right under the tank. It actually doesn't go across the middle, it stops like right here on both sides, so the middle is open. The turbocharger also had to make a really tight bend right out of the turbo because of the way the front is, so I got this cast 4-inch elbow. And then of course all our flanges and stuff come from Race Parts Solutions. We've got 4-inch going all the way up into the throttle body, and this is a 5-inch throttle body, so we stepped it up with a stubby reducer there right at the throttle body. We've got the 50mm dual blow-off valves, also from Turbo Smart. In this cold side, we have 3 700 lb/h billet atomizers. These have the number 6 ORB on the bottom and number 4 AN going in the top. This is something you have to special order from Billet Atomizer. I think they charge, I think you can get them, if you get them like that, they don't charge any extra if you just buy them like that before they send the injectors out or before they build your set. But if you have to send them back and have them changed, they're $100 per injector to have them converted from the O-ring to the number 6 ORB and stuff. But this really helps with the IETs. One injector helps. I can't imagine 3. It's going to be hosing it in like a fire hydrant. But as these come on, the ones in the intakes runners will back off a little bit. So it's going to make it kind of like a blow-through carb setup, even though it's EFI. So it's saturating the intake with methanol, getting everything cooled down. That really helps the engine life, and it makes more power, of course, but it's just a lot easier when your IATs aren't getting to 450 degrees. Going back on the hot side, he originally brought some headers that he got with this thing, and I'll show them right over here. By the way, these are for sale. I've tried to sell them for 900 bucks. Pretty good looking set of headers. They're all TIG welded and stuff. Got V-bands on them. Only problem is the Moses heads that are on this car, they're masked Moses. Their exhaust port measures nearly 2 inches across. And those headers over there are only 1 7/8 inches. So your header primary is smaller than your exhaust port. So the exhaust port, when it's coming out of there, it's hitting a wall. And there's no way you can, I guess you could try to port the header out bigger on the primary, but you're getting into your flange and stuff, making it weak. So we just thought it best to build a new set. And on these, we did a reverse step. We've got 2 1/8 coming out of the head. Then we step it down halfway to 2 inch. And then we go 2 inch to a single 3 at the collector. See, we tried to mirror image them. Of course, they're not really, because one head's closer to the other, but just at a glance, they look the same. Let me see if I can get on this side to fold my little camera holders in. The EGT bungs on any upswept header, I try to put them on the bottom. That keeps the look really clean up top. That way you don't have to worry about a bunch of wires laying on the headers and stuff. You can just come from the bottom, tuck all your wiring really good, and it just looks really clean doing it like that. Monster's got me burping this morning. Steering shaft, all that stuff was already in the car. Like I said, the chassis was pretty much done. The front motor plate was even fit on the car, so we just left it there. The mid plate needed some tweaking to get the motor centered with the chassis, but I believe the cubic inch on this is around 440-ish cubic inch. Is a tall deck LSR. It's the same block that I'm running in my car. Have the mast intake to match the Moses heads. I said you can about put all, you can put all 4 fingers, 5 fingers in the intake ports on that thing. They're huge. It's got a daily dry sump system on it. It already had this Peterson drag tank on it whenever they brought it. You can see they've got it Frenched in here, really nice, where the hood and everything, the front end and everything lays on it, the windshield. It is their 7-stage system, I believe. It's even got a stage for crankcase vacuum that goes in the top of the valley cover. You can see down there. Going over some of the other details. We have our System 1 oil filter right here with the billet mount. We just mounted that directly to the front motor plate. On this side we have the System 1 fuel filter. And for our fuel pump we have the Waterman Little Bertha Nostalgia. This is a 16 gallon per minute rated pump, or I think it's right at 17 on the flow sheet. It's cam driven. This bracket is from AEI. Robert, he always makes us some really sweet brackets and stuff. It's got the hyperactive wheel on for the crank trigger. And it did have a timing pointer and stuff that TKM set up, and another bracket for the pickup. But when we redid this fuel pump bracket, I actually got one for a motor that was not a raised cam version. That was my mistake, so we had to reconfigure the bracket. And whenever we did, we got a nice one that has a slot for the pickup right there, timing pointer. It's got everything integrated, looks super clean, and Robert does a fantastic job in getting all that figured out based on our measurements and stuff. We've got the Fuel Lab massive fuel pump fuel pressure regulator there. And up top we've got a 700 pound per hour atomizers and the runners, big dash 12 fuel rails. Trying to think if I've left anything else off before I go to the next subject here. All right, let's talk about the plumbing. Brown and Miller came and did all the plumbing on this car. Those guys, I can't say enough good about that company. Mike, he came out here and mocked everything up. Everything looks super clean. He's really meticulous on the way he lays everything out. But they came out here, or he did, with the truck and trailer, mocked everything up. I kind of went with his suggestions on how he wanted the hoses routed and different things, and I put my 2 cents in whenever he wanted it, and it turned out super clean. You can see all these hoses there, just really nice. Everything's laid out, everything's black. You got any hose that's near heat, like the speed line for the fuel here. I'll show you underneath. It's got some really nice heat wrap on it. All of your oil lines, they've got a black sleeve on them, but underneath they are braided stainless. It's a really tough hose, but they've got the sleeve on there to make them look like the rest of the hoses. Really, really nice. We've got a billet Motion Raceworks catch can for the vent for the dry sump tank. These burn down tubes, I searched around online and found these where I think I could buy like 50 foot. It wasn't much money, but I'm not really a fan of the ribbed look, like the real heavy rib, like a swimming pool pump hose or something like that, or the clear hose. The clear hose looks yellow after it gets the alcohol and condensation and stuff, oil residue and stuff in it. So I like this because it's slick, but it still has a slightly ribbed look. We got these nice clamps to go on it, and these valve cover quick release billet pieces from it's some supercharger place out in California, but a lot of builds use these. Really nice, quick connect. Got a little button under here. You push, pull it out. It's got a double O-ring inside. Take them off when you pull your valve cover, whatever. Got those going back to our burn down tube bulkhead fittings that we make now. We made them one-off for this car, and some people asked about them, so we put them on the website. You can buy a pair of them for $100. Comes with 16s on both sides, welded to the flange. Just bolt it to the firewall. That'll get you through the firewall. I'm gonna move the dash back here where you can see how it comes through the firewall there. It goes down the tunnel really nice. You see that other fire nozzle right there I was talking about earlier for the engine bay. And go to the other side. You can see where that burn tube comes through. The other fire nozzle. And here's the throttle rod setup. I know I've done several videos on this, but I'll show you again just to keep it all in this video. Joey designed this. You can see the throttle pedal down there. And you can see it moving the rod through the firewall out to the throttle. You can also buy this as a kit on our website. It's a builder kit, comes with all these pieces loose with the bushings and everything. If you've got a similar build you think you can use it on. Within the burn down tubes, they just kind of tuck in there and run all the way to the back to that tank. I'm not even sure what the company was I got that hose from. I'll show you some of it over here. It's really lightweight. It's really thick, but it's super pliable. You can see how tight I'm bending it there. And it's not kinking. So I'll have to look on my order history and see what brand that is, but I really like it because it really looks a lot better than the clear corrugated hose. I'm trying to remember if there's anything I've left off we haven't talked about. Show you under here some of the plumbing. You can see it. Oop, camera just come off the little base. This car has a removable K-member within the tube chassis. That's kind of a neat aspect of it. I don't know what the rules were in the area where the car was built, but it's kind of a neat detail. But now this car is going to Reese Brothers Race Cars in Georgia. They're going to finish up all the body work, all the details, get the hatch mounted, the paint, or the wrap rather, that's going to be done on this car. They're going to get the suspension set up, all the other details ready to go down the track, and then it's going back to TKM for tuning after they get the fuel tech on there, and hopefully make some power. So thank you, Shelton, for choosing us to do this build. We look forward to many more of this caliber coming through the shop. So that's it. See you next time.